Thank you so much for that amazing performance. Well, we had quite a few people who were wondering where they could find the Environmental Bill of Rights, African American Environmental Bill of Rights. I'm not sure.
Well, that's a little challenging because I made it up.
Ah!
Okay. I made it up from what I have learned and what I've heard from my experiences at past Taking Nature Black conferences, from the work that is going forward. I made it up from George Floyd, from COVID, from what we have been experiencing in the last 400 years.
Wonderful.
Okay, and you know, they should stay tuned because I have a feeling that there might be use for it. More people might want to explore it and expand it as well. This is an ongoing process.
A living document, if you will.
A living document, well said, dear.
Okay, wonderful. Does anybody else have other questions for Dr. Wilson?
While we're waiting, can I say something?
Absolutely.
There were a few things that I kind of wanted to speak to. One of them was the Ring Shout, our Ring Shout remix. We didn't get a chance to show from above, but anyone who does not know, we were on Black Lives Matter Plaza. We thought that was a very appropriate place to speak to Ain't We Got a Right to the Tree of Life. And I hope that you saw during the stories and during that cameo appearances by our chairwoman, Caroline Brewer, who is responsible for this amazing Love Fest here. Can I bring in, is now the time? Okay, we also have here Dr. Ysaÿe Maria Barnwell, who started out as the composer and publisher of Breaths. That was that beautiful piece of dance and what Yolanda Ackles calls choreo poetry. But she's becoming, which y'all I'm sure need to know is a sister friend. So, yes, so grateful to have her with us, her generosity and her beauty and her knowledge base. We're having a good time.
Yes, we are.
We do have a question. Anna says, I would love to hear more about the idea of the tree of life. What is it to you? How would you describe it?
Wow. Well, let me say that when I went back to graduate school the second time to come out with this PhD thing, Ray Key, Professor Ray Key, the Africanist in the Department of History at that time, told us about the tree of life. And it is an idea that pre-existed the Sahara Desert. My understanding of this, and I haven't done enough work on it to really speak authoritatively, but my understanding is that there were maps across, as the desert was developing, maps across the desert that paralleled the idea of a tree of life. So each oasis is kind of a branch or a bough. The tree of life so when Africans and their descendants are coming to the Western Hemisphere during this period, during what we might call the transatlantic trafficking period, they are bringing this idea of an awareness of a fullness of life, an awareness that life is not the limited and unfortunate experience that they were being handed, that life was much fuller, much richer, much deeper, much sweeter, as the song says. You know, the road may be rough, but the reality, the deep spiritual reality is sweeter, richer, fuller, deeper than anything anybody can suggest to you. And so we're going with reality. We're not going with a limited supposition, somebody else's idea of who you are. So that's the way I begin thinking about the tree of life that we all have a right to.
There's a proverb that says, go back and fetch it.
Go back and
Go
fetch it.
back and fetch it.
All right now.
Sometimes we forget.
Mm.
We have to remember.
We have to remember.
Wonderful. Someone also wanted to ask, how do fellow poets connect in these times of COVID? Connect and even virtually, how do we do that?
I actually, one of the things that I've seen, the People's Music Network, Lucy Murphy, who is a colleague and another sister, a deep musical person, she works with the People's Music Network, and they get online and have these events where poets, songmakers, storytellers have the opportunity to share their stuff. We don't need to be in physical proximity to touch each other.
We can start right here.
I'm sorry?
Build a community right here.
We can build a commit. Well,
On the Hoover platform.
on the Hoover platform, apparently, I'm being helped with this, as with so many things. This is another sister friend over here. Caroline Brewer is a deep sister, and she's reminding us that we can start a community. We can start on this Hoover platform. The point is that we share. The point is not that we, actually, it's not even about a whole lot of money. Now, I'm not saying that money isn't a nice thing. What I'm saying is that the real deal is that we have to touch each other, and we have to allow what is inside of us to glow and grow and shine. As long as we get to do that, I think we're doing the do.
And let's ask these.
Yeah, I think that's the value of the oral tradition, that we don't have to write it down. We simply need to speak it. We simply need to sing it. We simply need to move to it. We give ourselves the rhythm that we need to get what we need to get done.
Mm. Amen to that.
That was some poetry.
Yes, it was.
And
Amen.
do you want to tell why?
Wonderful. Another question is,
Could
how did you conceive of which performances accompanied each rite?
see? Oh. Okay, I hear you. Okay, which went with what?
I guess the question is, how did you determine which performances accompanied each of the rites on the Bill of Rights? Yeah.
Okay, well, as it happens, when I realized we had to say, we have the right to breathe. That is so basic. But that we have the right to breathe. Clean air is almost, it's not secondary, but it didn't happen first. Why should we have to say that? The first thing that came to my mind was breaths. And, when it's a spiritual activity, as this has been, for everyone that you are watching, for Yolanda Ackles, for Freedom Nasaroma Liel, Insoroma Liel, for Lydia Curtis. I believe that we can say for Devon Massey, the name we call him Rick, so that came into my head to start it. For everyone, for Phil Doro, for Angel Bethay, I do believe I can say this was a spiritual activity. That being the case, it was all about listening, and things came. There wasn't a moment when I was thinking, this is supposed to be like falling off a log. Didn't turn out to be quite that way.
Listen more often to things.
There you
than
go.
To beings.
That's it now. Yes. So
And we'll wrap up with why you became a part of this.
why did you become part of this?
Because I was invited.
Yes.
It's a new venture for me.
Ah.
And so I find it really not only entertaining, but fulfilling, and a world full of knowledge that I have not entered yet.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
It's true. It is true. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Ah, you are most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a poem by Birago Diop, Senegalese poem. And he's the one that says, listen more often to things than to beings. It's the ancestor's breath when the fire's voice is heard. It's the ancestor's breath in the voice of the water.
Yes.
I've always loved that poem, and I've set it to music so you can hear the music of it.
There it is. And so we have so many ancestors now.
Mm.
We have 500,000 more than we had at the beginning of this experience. But that doesn't mean that the tree of life has any stop to it. The tree of life continues to flourish. It continues to bless us. And so we must bless each other. We're grateful to spend this time with you. We're grateful if anything we did touched you. So you go ahead. It is to do the work that we have been doing, to show you you are honored, all of you environmental people. Grateful for you.
You have certainly touched a lot of people. And in fact, Megan was asking, what is your opinion on the value of an oral history format rather than written?
You know, I think that there's a huge difference in the way in which communication occurs when you are speaking, singing, praying out loud or silently to and with other people. We come into the world, if we are fortunate, with certain kinds of abilities and skills. We create ways to do those things differently, but they don't necessarily enhance the process of our being able to communicate with each other. We have a fluency with our languages. We have tempo and rhythm with our languages. That does not necessarily come across on the written page. And so I think those aspects of the ways in which we relate, which represent life in the minute, registers more deeply and more profoundly with us, particularly if we're looking at it through an African worldview. So I think that that is very much a part of who we are, yes?
Yes. Oh, yes. And that's the reason why we're still talking about stuff after 400 years, having gone through some deep, but also transcendent experiences.
There's a poem by Birago Diop, a Senegalese poet, and it's called Breaths, and I was compelled to put it to music. But it says, listen more often to things than to beings. Listen more often to things than to beings. 'Tis the ancestors' breath when the fire's voice is heard. 'Tis the ancestors' breath in the voice of the waters. Do you have more time?
I think.
We have one last question. Well, we have a few more questions, but we have time for one last question. And I thought this one was important. Do you have thoughts on how we can integrate arts, natural rights, and a sense of belonging in nature to our children?
Oh, heavens. Honey, go outside and sing to a tree. The birds are out there. You know, there's no mistake that ornithology thing. It is happening all around us. Children know more about this than we do. Just don't get in the way. Make sure that we spend time out with the part, this idea that humans are separate, that humans are something other than natural, has to stop. Because if it did stop, then we'd understand that those parts of our system, that our nature, that we can harm them or take or not even live in awareness of them, that can stop right now. Let's go outside and listen more often to things than to beings.
There you go.
Then we got it done.
Yes.
Our children are oral, and they'll teach us to remember. Okay?
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us for our paean to our human rights. You might even say divine rights. Ain't you got a right to the tree of life, exploring an African American environmental bill of rights? There are a couple of things I wanted to mention while I sit here with my dear new sister friend, Dr. Ysaÿe Maria Barnwell. One thing I wanted to say was that in Virago Diop's poem, Breaths, she tells me it's the first poem that she ever set to music. In that poem, we're talking about ancestors. It's the ancestors' breaths in the voice of the water, that we are not separated. And I wanted to invite you all to take a moment and remember your ancestors, those who have gone on to their next assignment, and who teach us, who have taught us how to complete this one. I have a couple of names that I can say. Alyssa Suzanne Wilson. I can say in our family, and that's my daughter, in our family, the most recent person to have made that journey is Jackie Easley, a warrior, spiritual warrior woman. And I'd also like to say the name of Lou Charloff, a dear friend and the father of a dear friend. And I'm inviting Dr. Ysaÿe to share a name with us. Something about your...
My grand aunt.
Mhm.
I don't know how she came about it, but this was her name. Maddie, Jane, Dorcas, Anne, Matilda Bell, Ellis, Thornton, Garrett. Married 3 times.
All right.
And I say hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
And she was around until she was 99.
Good. Well done.
Yes, takes a long time to live into all those names.
You never have. I wanted to invite you all to say your names, say the names of those, your ancestors that you cherish and who I know still cherish you. Let's just take a moment. Okay, thank you. I also wanted to say that I'm a Harlem child. I'm a very, very urban child. In my childhood, there was only one tree close to my house. It was a little baby tree. And I loved it, actually. And then one day a garbage truck came, backed into it, and that was it. And I want to say that I had in these 5 rights, I had written green space. I had spoken about land, but it fell off. And I want to say that being here at Taking Nature Black, I am really more deeply understanding that I have a right, that's one of my rights, to have relationships with trees and green and the land. And I want to invite you, as you shape these rights to your own uses, that green space and land be a part of that. So I understand we have some questions. While we're waiting to hear them, let me say that to thank Freedom Nsoroma Lee L, sorry, that extraordinary voice and performance artist, and Yolanda Yogi Ackles, choreo poet, and Lydia Curtis, spoken word, Devon Massey, who was our musical director and did the sound design, and our audio engineer, Philip Doro, our bassist, Ms. Angelica Angel Bethay, our drummer and percussion and multiple percussion instrument. We had a beautiful, beautiful group. And of course, we were joined by Sister Dr. Ysaÿe Maria Barnwell. And I'm sure you noticed a few cameos from Caroline Brewer, the chairwoman of this conference. She came and played with us a day or two, and that was a great blessing, way fun. So we thank you all, our wonderful videographers, Benjamin Israel and Gabriela Franco and Adam Simon, who also worked in this way. We thank you, we bless you, Audubon Naturalist Society, and the Taking Nature Black team. Beautiful. Thank you. So now we're ready for some questions.
Great, thank you. And the first question is, where do you find the power of inspiration for your movements?
Movements for well, our movements, if you're talking about what Yolanda Ackles is doing, you know, actually, we find power from each other. We find power from our ancestors because they faced some deep and profound experiences, but they moved through them with tremendous grace and rootedness to the land and rootedness to community, rootedness to spirit, and to the idea of transcendence. Just the fact that you keep walking makes it clear that it is our rhythm that helps us to move, that helps us go through the changes and rise above them.
Yeah, can I add that I feel a particular urgency to say that we identify with and move to the rhythm of the earth, and probably to the planets too, which I don't know how we feel that, but they obviously have their rhythm.
Yeah.
And I feel as if we are invested in maintaining those rhythms and allowing those rhythms to go where they need to go to continually heal the earth and to continually heal those of us who are trying to live on the earth.
Yes.
And so in all of our music, there is a consciousness about the rhythms of the earth. And if we listen, like Virago Job says, listen more often to things than to beings, it's the ancestors' breath, it's the voice of the waters, it's all of those things. And so I feel like we have a different earth view or a different world view than those people who don't take the time or may not allow themselves the sensitivity to respond, to adapt, to put yourself inside of a particular rhythm, you know, so that you can be healed by that rhythm. You can move, be propelled forward with those rhythms. So I take them seriously.
Very seriously.
Wonderful, thank you. The next question we have is, how did Ysaÿe come to write this song? What was the importance of the message to you then and now?
Which one was that?
That was you.
Breaths.
Breaths.
Ah,
Mhm.
you know, I heard this poem, must have been in the mid-70s. And I could not get it out of my system. Somehow or other, it was the first time I felt that I really understood my relationship to the earth.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
when I joined Sweet Honey in the Rock, that was the first poem that I set to music. So I don't know how I got caught up, but I did. And I had to sing it. So now other people sing it too.
Yeah,
That's
right.
a good
Now other people sing it too. They sure do. Wow.
it's a good thing.
It's
But
a good thing.
it taught me something. You know, I just hadn't paid attention.
Mhm.
And now I think I pay attention a little differently.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, next question is, do you have thoughts on how we can integrate arts, natural rights, and a sense of belonging in nature to our children?
Oh,
Mm.
yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, children remember. Children know. And when we think, well, of course, the reason we are given the honor of hanging out with children is so that we can help them to learn some of the best, hopefully, some of the best things that we have to offer. But actually, they're doing us a favor because they remember some of the best things. I think that naturally, children remember about listening to trees. Children remember, they know that green spaces are spaces that you're supposed to run in and play in and listen to birds. So if we allow ourselves to play and allow ourselves to listen, and then it's not hard, just as with this, it's not hard to pay attention to things and let them bring out of us the respect, the grace, the sweetness, the love for the land that is natural to us. And then we will grow. We have enough, you know, I always think when you have a child around you, you get another shot. We will grow in our understanding of our relationship to the natural world as they do. And we can all, there is no better way to learn about our relationship to the land than to learn together with our children.
Yeah. And to watch the things that they bring with them, because they don't necessarily have a consciousness of what they've brought.
Mm-hmm.
So when we watch children and we see them tumbling in a certain way, or we see them stopped by something, and we can't see what that something is, you know, those children are bringing us things that we have either forgotten or that we were not fortunate enough
Mm-hmm.
to have grow inside of us. And so we have to strengthen our relationships with children, try to
Yes.
understand what are you seeing? What are you,
Right.
You
What
know,
was that?
what are you seeing? What are you hearing? Why did you say that?
Yeah.
And not in an accusatory way, but in a way that really helps us to understand their relationship to spirit, to earth, to
Yes.
wind, to rain, to all of that. Because
Yes.
you know, we get sophisticated and we say, I'm not losing, you know, time with you.
Right. I got important things to do.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly,
right.
exactly.
Try that again.
That's right. That's right.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful. And the next question that we have is, what is your opinion on the value of an oral history format rather than written?
Oh, now?
Shucks.
Well,
Okay. Do you want to
go ahead.
go?
I'll follow you.
You're so kind. Okay. My own scholarship, it has to do with cultural production. So oral stuff, you know, song, story, not just what we talk, also how we move, and also what we do graphically. My feeling is that those who are not, in quotes, writing, you know, that kind of literacy, they still expressed deep, profound. I am a cultural and intellectual historian. And all of that is in our cultural production. So Plato, I understand, said, never trust a man who writes. Oral histories, even though the Western traditions lean very heavily on what is written, I tend, of course, we have those written records and we should use them and honor them and, you know, purposefully examine them, but we cannot examine them alone, especially if we're working on understanding peoples who were not largely writing. The Western historiography, the tradition of writing history says, if you are not writing, history cannot be written. I say, I beg to differ. Oh no. So, you go.
Well, you know, we have music for a reason as well.
Yeah.
We have music, we have rhythm. And those things give us a frame to fit our history into. The one thing that I think people don't really think a lot about is how Africans who were brought to this country utilized music to document every experience they were having. You want to know how come they crossed their legs in a certain situation? Go to the song. You want to understand why the sun rises and sets in their understanding? Go to the song, because we have documented our observations of all of these things. We've documented the experience that we have when we see these things, and we document them and we relive them when they are healthy for us. So the use of music, the talents that we're given for understanding rhythm and pitch and harmony vocally with our bodies. We don't have to make anything else. We can do that all with our bodies. It's a really inherent kind of skill and talent that we who utilize these things have been given. And we can't take those things for granted, which I think we do so often. And so I'm grateful always for music and for things that sort of seem to sneak out when we least expect it, in the form of a melody or a rhythm. They're very important. They are ways in which we connect ourselves back to the universe.
Thank you. All of these questions, we could be here all night. Yeah. Every one of them. Yeah. They are wonderful questions and they're perfect for us. So thank you. Keep bringing them. Bring it.
All All right. Well, we definitely have a lot more questions, but I want to be conscious of everyone's time. And Caroline, I want to see if you have any last words to close the evening.
Just want to say thank you to everyone for joining us, and thank you to these amazing women who have brought us such an incredible story and program about our natural world experiences. And we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
absolutely. Absolutely.
We should wave. Wave, bye. Bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye, bye,
When the
bye,
morning
bye.
comes, will all the saints of God are gathering home, and we will tell the story of how we overcome, because we understand it better by and by.
Bye and bye. Woo-hoo!